Everyone prayed for the three children who vanished in 1989. 24 years passed without a trace. At dawn today, a hunter named Joel leaves the main trail and finds a gray shack built from scrap wood. The roof sags. The chimney is a short pipe. The door hangs half open. No voices, no birds. He steps inside. A metal cot, a dented bucket, a torn blanket stiff with dust. The air smells of damp and rust. On the wall, a single sheet of lined paper is pinned with a rusty tack. Heavy pencil marks press into the page. Joel reads the line out loud. "I'm still here." His chest tightens. He backs into the light and fumbles for his phone. "Sheriff," he says when the call connects. "Come to the old Burn Road. I found a note in a shack. It looks like a child wrote it. It says someone is still here." He keeps the door open and checks the floor for prints. The dust is broken near the cot, as if someone stood there recently. Joel stares at the trees while he waits. He does not go back inside. He will not read the line again. The sheriff arrives in 15 minutes, lights off to keep the road quiet. 2 deputies get out. Joel points at the shack and stays by his truck. Sheriff Lane goes in first. He reads the note once, then again. He does not touch it. "Photograph, then bag," he says. Deputy Ruiz lifts a camera. The shutter clicks. Lane studies the pencil marks. The letters are big and uneven. Childlike. "Could be a prank," Ruiz whispers. Lane does not answer. He scans the cot, the bucket, the blanket. Outside, a car door slams. A woman comes to the tape the deputies just strung. "My name is Dana Oakes," she calls. "My boy went missing in '89. I need to see that note." Her hands shake on the rope. Lane meets her at the line. "Dana, you can't go in yet," he says, "but I'll read it to you." He looks back at the paper and lowers his voice. "It says, 'I'm still here.'" Dana closes her eyes. The tape ticks against the post. Lane turns to Ruiz. "Prints on the tack, the wall, the door, then grid the clearing. Keep it quiet for now." By noon, the clearing is busy but quiet. Radios murmur in low bursts. A tech named Morrow kneels by the cot and slides a small cassette player from the frame. The shell is gray and scuffed. A strip of tape across the back with a faded date. He shows it to Lane. "Batteries?" Lane asks. Morrow checks the hatch with a thumb. "One has life." He presses play. Hiss floods the shack. Then a thin voice, young and careful, counts to 5, steady as if reading from a card. A pause follows. The same voice repeats the line from the wall. "I'm still here." Outside, Dana grips the tape at the boundary and listens through her hands. The voice returns, softer now, close to the mic. "It's night again." Cloth rustles. A second voice leans in and whispers so close the consonants smear. Morrow stops the tape and sets it down. No one speaks. Lane studies the door frame and finds 3 short hatch marks carved low at a child's height. He points to Ruiz. "Photograph these, then dust for prints." Thunder rolls over the ridge. "Bag the recorder," Lane says. "We'll play the rest at the office." Lane widens the search before the rain hits. 50 yards, slow sweep," he says. Joel points to a faint track bending behind the shack. "Deer don't use that." Ruiz crouches at the corner. "More carvings here," he says. 5 hatch marks, grouped in 3s and 2s. Under them, a small triangle. Beside it, a scratch arrow aimed at a stand of fur. Dana watches the tree line. "If one of them is alive, he's cold," she says. Lane nods. "We follow the arrow. No one goes alone." The team steps into the firs. Needles soften the ground. A strip of blue cloth hangs from a low branch, torn clean, pattern faded to ghost shapes. Ruiz holds it up. Joel squints. "That pattern was on the camp shirts in '89. A deputy calls from the side trail. "Fresh prints. Small." Lane raises his hand. "Mark them. Keep moving. Eyes up." Radios crackle with short replies. Wind shifts and the first drops hit the leaves, fast and cold. The path ahead blurs to a darker thread. The track threads through fir and into older pines. Arrow scratches appear again on the bark, shallow and shaky. Radios pass short updates. Scrap of cloth. No cans. No food. Rain starts as a fine mist. The path ends at a low door sunk into a mound of earth braced by rotten timbers. An old root cellar. A plank lies across it. On the plank, dull knife letters read, "Do not follow." Lane kneels and feels the seam. Cold air leaks from the gap, sour and stale. Dana stands back from the door, hands tight. "If there is a child down there and you wait, I won't forgive you," she says. Lane nods once. "Two at a time. Slow. Watch your feet." He looks to Joel. "You stay up here with Ruiz. 60 seconds of silence and you call it in." Lane lifts the door. Wood complains. Dark opens. He clicks his light and steps down the narrow stairs, counting each board so his mind stays steady. The rain grows louder on the trees. Behind him, the rope tape flutters and then goes still. The cellar is a narrow room shored by logs. Old jars line a shelf, lids orange with rust. A guide rope runs along the right wall, knotted at hand height. Lane sweeps his light. On packed dirt, a bedroll stitched from 2 coats. Beside it, a cracked plastic cup. On the far wall, hatch marks in tall stacks. Every 7th line is circled. After a long gap, new marks appear in a lighter hand. Lane lowers the beam. A fresh shoe print overlaps an older tread. Small. "Hello?" he calls. His tone stays even. "This is the sheriff. Say your name." Air shifts ahead. Not wind. The slight move a body makes when it steps back. Metal clicks once in the dark, then nothing. Lane raises his free hand. "No sudden moves," he says, voice low. To the dark, "We found your note. We brought your mother." The rope on the wall trembles as if fingers just slipped away. A faint breath answers from the tunnel mouth beyond the beam. Then a single word, dry and small. "Wait." Lane keeps his light low. "We won't rush you," he says. "I'm going to set the beam on the floor so it doesn't shine at your eyes." He tilts the flashlight and rests it on a jar. The cone glows along the rope in the dirt. Ruiz stays 1 step behind, radio clipped open. "What's your name?" Lane asks. A scrape, then that small word again. Closer. "Eli." Lane repeats it once, plain. "Eli, my name is Lane. Your mother is here. She is outside. She wants to hear your voice." Silence stretches. Dust hangs in the glow and falls. Lane lifts his radio. "Dana," he says. "Say his name for me." Static. Then Dana's voice, thin with fear. "Eli, baby, it's me. I'm here." A soft intake of breath from the dark. Cloth rubs stone. "Don't turn the light higher," Eli says. "My eyes hurt." "Okay," Lane says. "We'll keep it low. Are you alone?" Another scrape. "He said not to talk to men in uniforms." Lane swallows once. "Is he here now?" The answer comes fast. "He's close. He hears the steps. Please don't call." Lane nods, though Eli may not see it. "We won't call," he says. "But we need to leave this room. Is there another way out?" A pause. Then, "There's a tunnel. It goes to the creek. He uses it when the road is busy." Ruiz lowers to a knee and sweeps the beam at floor height. A thin cord crosses the path, looped to a bell tucked behind a jar. He points. Lane shakes his head and cuts the cord with a pocket knife, slow and careful. No sound. "Eli, where is he now?" Listening. The word is a whisper that shakes. From deeper in the tunnel, wood ticks as if weight shifts. Rain drums harder overhead. Water begins to bead on the logs. "We're leaving," Lane says. "Come to my voice." Small steps touch dirt. Bare feet. Eli's outline enters the cone of light, thin and hunched. A chain lies around his ankle, the lock new and bright. Ruiz lifts the radio to his mouth. "No," Eli hisses. "He comes when he hears radios. He comes when it rains." Thunder cracks. Dust falls from the rafters. Lane takes off his jacket and holds it out. Lane holds the jacket out and waits. "May I touch your ankle?" he asks. A small nod moves in the dark. Lane wraps the chain with the jacket to kill any ring. "He listens for metal," Eli whispers. "Then we will be quiet," Lane says. "Is there a key?" Eli points past the bedroll. "Boot. Inside the heel." Ruiz slides a rubber boot from under the shelf and checks inside. A ring of 3 keys taps his palm. Lane lifts a finger. Slow. He tests the first key. It scrapes. No seat. He tries the second. It catches, then sticks. Lane stops and eases it back a hair. A small click. The lock opens. Lane holds the chain to take the weight. He sets the open lock on the dirt. "Good," he says. "We move on thunder. When I squeeze twice, step forward." Rain thickens. Eli swallows. He waits for footsteps when it storms. "Then we will not give him any," Lane says. He wraps the loose chain in the jacket and tucks it under his arm. "Ruiz, radio stays cold." Ruiz nods and lifts his light to find the tunnel mouth. They enter the tunnel in a line. Lane first, then Eli, Ruiz last. The ceiling drops to shoulder height. Mud slicks the floor. Water seeps under the boards. Lane keeps the beam low. "We move when it booms," he says. Thunder answers. They step on the roll of the sound, then stop. Another stretch. Stop. The guide rope ends at a split log door held by a wooden pin. Lane puts his ear to it. Rain on leaves. Close. He works the pin with his knife. A half turn at a time. The door loosens. Cold air slides in. "Almost there," Lane says. Eli shivers. He waits by the creek when it rains. Behind them, wood ticks in the cellar. A weight tests a step. Ruiz freezes. Lane eases the door and pushes Eli through. "Up and left," he whispers. "Brush will cover you." Eli crawls into wet ferns. Ruiz follows and scans the bank. Shapes shift above. Deputies moving to cover. Dana's voice carries, clear in the rain. "Eli." He flinches, then looks back at Lane. His lips barely move. "We can't leave her," he says. "He took her yesterday." Lane absorbs the words. "Who did he take?" "The girl," Eli says. "He keeps her in the culvert when it rains. He calls it the cold room." "Which way?" "Downstream, past the bend. The ground hums when trucks pass." Lane signals with 2 fingers and a flat palm. Silent. Low. Deputies shift in the brush. Dana starts forward. Lane shakes his head. "Stay with me. Wait for my call." He guides Eli along the bank. Water runs high and fast. Ferns hide a corrugated pipe set under roots. A tarp is lashed across it. A string of cans lies tucked in moss. A quiet alarm. Lane lifts the string and knots it before it can ring. Mud shows small heel marks pressed deep. "Her name?" "Lena," Eli says. "She was one of us." "Is he armed?" "Knife. Wire." Thunder booms. From inside the pipe, a faint tap answers the storm. 3 beats, then 2. Ruiz leans close. "Signal?" Lane nods. 3 and 2, like the marks. He puts his ear to steel. "Lena, it's the sheriff. Tap once if you can move." 1 tap, thin but sure. Lane slides into the pipe. Cold water climbs to his knees. Ruiz covers the mouth, light low. "We're coming in, Lena." "No bright light," Lane says. The beam skims the floor. A pallet sits on cinder blocks. A small shape lies under a plastic sheet. One wrist is tied to a ring bolt with paracord. Lane cuts the line in 2 strokes and checks her breath. "Can you stand?" "Yes," she whispers. He wraps the sheet around her shoulders. "Eli is outside." Her eyes open wider. "Don't let him see me." "He isn't here," Lane says, steady. A scuff rises from deeper in the pipe. Not water. A slow step, then another. Lane raises a hand to still them. He clicks his radio twice without voice. They're silent alert. Ruiz shifts his stance at the rim. Rain hammers the bank. The scuff stops. A soft metal ping answers from above, near the ferns. A missed bell. Lane grips Lena's shoulder. Up and left. Now. They move fast. At the lip, Dana kneels with both hands out. A branch bends in the trees behind her. The branch behind Dana bends again. Lane turns his head only enough to see the shadow. Stay with me, he says to Dana, low. Eli, hold Lena's hand. Ruiz lifts 2 fingers. Left flank. Lane nods. He eases the jacket-wrapped chain from under his arm and tosses it toward the creek. It lands with a soft thud. A shape in the brush shifts toward the noise. A hood. A gray cap brim. The flash of a blade when lightning opens the sky. Hands where I can see them, Lane says. The figure slides back. A line snaps near the ground. Wire! Low! Ruiz grabs Dana's sleeve and pulls her clear. Cans rattle once and go still. The man drops to the bank and moves along the ferns, fast and hunched. Lane follows parallel, using the thunder to step. The trail prints smear in fresh rain. Near a stump, 5 hatch marks score wet bark. 3 and 2. A taunt. Lane breathes once. He's pushing toward the service road, he says. Alpha to cover the culvert. Bravo with me. Eli squeezes Lena's hand tighter and does not look up. They cut across to the old road, now a dark ribbon of mud and stone. Ferns brush their knees. Rain flattens tracks, but one boot print holds a ridge of grit. Fresh. Lane raises a palm and listens. A small click answers from the ditch ahead. Not a gun. A bell on a string, reset. He points to Ruiz and mouths. Right. They split by 3 steps. Lightning throws the trees into hard relief. A low tarp squats under a fallen pine. Lane lifts the edge with 2 fingers. Inside, a plastic tub, a coil of wire, a jar of matches in wax. No food, no bedroll. Movement to the rear. The man is circling back toward the creek. Lane clicks his radio twice. No voice. Deputies shift near the bank. Dana crouches over Lena and Eli, shielding them with her body. The gray cap appears 10 yards off, knife low. Drop it, Lane says. The man freezes, then steps to the culvert mouth and vanishes into the dark tube. Lane runs to the rim. The echo of feet fades downstream, swallowed by rain and steel. Lane does not drop into the pipe. He wants that, he says. We cut him off. He points downstream. Outlet, under the service road. 2 deputies move through brush at a crouch. Radios stay dark. Ruiz and Lane track the bank by sound. Water hammers steel. Rain climbs. Trip lines cross the ferns, tied to small bells tucked in roots. Ruiz clips each line and pockets the bells. He resets as he runs, Ruiz says. He plans for storms. They reach the culvert mouth at the road. A rust grate hangs broken on one hinge. Water spits through the gap. Inside, a light knocks once, then goes out. Lane signs to the team. Left, high cover. Right, low cover. He edges to the grate and slides the jacketed chain into the pipe. It bumps the wall and drifts. A head turns in the dark. The gray cap, the knife. The man draws back at once. Lane keeps his voice even. It's over. Come out slow. Silence. Then a scrape deeper inside. There's a side hatch, Ruiz says. Maintenance port, 50 yards. They pivot and move. The maintenance hatch sits in a bank of wet clay, half hidden by grass. Bolts are loose from years of flood. Lane sets his palm to the metal. A breath leaks from the seam. He nods to Ruiz. On thunder. The sky answers. Lane yanks the hatch. A man bursts through, low and fast, knife near his thigh. Lane meets him at the hinge with his forearm and jams the wrist to the frame. The blade scrapes metal. Ruiz takes the elbow and twists. The knife drops into mud. The man lashes a loop of wire from his sleeve and snaps it toward Lane's neck. Lane ducks. Ruiz cuts the loop with the dropped knife and boots it into the grass. Hands, Lane says. Flat. The man wheezes and goes still. Lane cuffs him, one click at a time. Where are the others? Lane asks. The man stares past him at the trees. 3 and 2, he says. Count right. Deputies sweep the ditch. A small tin bell lies in the weeds, still ringing. Lane looks upstream toward the culvert. Hold him, he says. I'm going back for marks. Lane moves back toward the culvert rim, scanning bark for the groups of 3 and 2. He turns after the third cluster, then 2 more trees. At the second fir, a thin cord disappears into moss. He traces it to a flat stone set in mud. Under the stone, a narrow slot in clay holds a bell packed with grass to mute it. He buried alarms, Ruiz says. He listens from cover. Lane follows the cord to a panel of boards wedged in the bank. He slides his knife under a seam and levers once. The panel loosens. Cold air leaks from a hand-cut pocket. Inside, a milk crate with folded shirts. 3, tied with twine. 2 small bundles of socks. A jar with bandages. A padlock with bright scratches. On the backboard, hatch marks again. 3 tall, 2 short. Then an arrow pointing down slope. Map, Lane says. 3 and 2 is a path. He resets the panel and brushes the mud smooth. Eli, stay with your mother. Ruiz, with me. We follow the right bank and count. They move under wet leaves, stepping on thunder. The marks lead them to a root mat above a bend where the current slows. A tarp lies under the roots, fixed with nails and wire. Lane peels a corner back. A square pit drops 4 feet to sand. At the far side, a steel ring is set in a post. A fresh tie of paracord hangs loose, cut clean. The sand is smooth except for 1 heel print and a knee, warm to the touch. Minutes, Ruiz says. Lane looks upstream. He doubled back after the hatch, he says. He staged her here. A faint sound rises from downriver, almost lost in rain. 3 soft taps, then 2. They freeze. The taps repeat, closer now, from under the next bank. Lane points to a low seam where water spills from clay. He slides his hand in and finds a wooden edge. A small door sits flush to the mud, pinned by a peg. He works the peg free on the roll of thunder. The door lifts an inch. Air leaks out, stale and warm. The tapping stops. Then a whisper. Help. Lane lowers his voice. We're here. Stay still. He nods to Ruiz for cover and counts down with fingers. Lane holds up 3 fingers, then 2. He lifts the peg on thunder and eases the small door. The seam opens. His light stays low. I'm Lane, he says. I'm coming in. A crawl space runs under the bank, barely 2 feet high. Wet sand. A length of pipe along one side. A figure lies there, wrists taped to the pipe with gray strip. Help, the voice says again, dry and thin. Knife, Lane says. Ruiz slides it to him. Lane saws the tape, slow. Blade turned away from skin. Name, he asks. Noah, the voice says. Can you crawl? Yes. Lane cuts the last wrap and checks the ankles. Rope, tight. He cuts it and pulls the ends clear. We move on thunder, Lane says. Follow my hand. Rain swells. Thunder rolls. They slide out together, inch by inch, faces in wet roots, light on the sand only. At the lip, Lane lifts Noah under the arms. Ruiz takes his weight. Deputies close the ring, low and calm. Blanket, Lane says. Someone passes one forward. Noah shivers and stares at the culvert. He counts, he whispers. 3 and 2, always. They draw back from the bank into brush. Medic, Ruiz calls, voice still low. A deputy presses a thermal sheet around Noah's shoulders and checks a pulse. Strong enough. Dana kneels by Eli and Lena. I'm here, she says. Eli's fingers knot in her sleeve. Lane scans the line. Suspect? Cuffed and quiet, a deputy answers. The gray cap sits in mud, knife flagged. Rain eases to a steady fall. Lane turns to Noah. Anyone else? Noah swallows. He said the river hides the rest. Where? He leaves marks near the biggest roots. Lane looks upstream. The 3-2 pattern leads past the culvert into darker fur. He keys the radio once. No voice. Their code for shift. Alpha holds here, he says. Bravo clears the right bank with me. He meets Dana's eyes. Stay with them. She nods. Lane lifts the beam and finds fresh scratches on a log. 3 long, 2 short, then an arrow that bends left. He breathes once. We follow the marks, he says. No noise. On thunder. Lane and Ruiz followed the scratches along the right bank. 3 tall, 2 short, then a left bend again. The storm thins to a low hiss. They step on the roll of each far boom. The marks lead to a cedar whose roots grip a shelf of clay. Under the shelf, a tight crawl space sits behind a weave of branches. Lane eases the branches loose with his knife and feels cool air. Inside, a milk crate rests dry on 2 bricks. He pulls it out. A wallet in a plastic bag. 2 school badges. A cheap phone. A sealed spiral pad. He flips the pad. The first page holds a grid. 7 across. Marks in 3, then 2, repeating. At the bottom, an arrow points upstream and the word count. Lane slides the crate back and smooths the mud. Ruiz taps his arm and points to the waterline. A thin straw rises from the bank, cut at an angle. Air bubbles tick at the tip, then stop. Vent. Ruiz whispers. Lane nods once. He raises 2 fingers, then points left. They move 10 yards, slow, and drop to their knees. Lane parts the brush where the vent rises. The straw feeds a fist-sized hole under the root mat. He slides his knife in and lifts turf like a lid. A narrow pocket opens, dry and close. A small radio sits inside, battery out. A cord to a bell. A notepad in plastic. A pencil cut to a stub. He flips the pad. Times in columns. Truck hours. Rain marks. Down the margin, 1 line repeats. I'm still here. The script starts heavy, then steadies, then fades. Different hands, Ruiz says. 3 out, Lane says. Count ends. He seals the pad and tucks it back. Water climbs the bank. The vent straw tilts and gulps. Lane lowers the turf, wipes prints with a fern, and backs away. He clicks the radio once. Brush answers. We're done on this side, he says, low. Medic to the creek. We move uphill in pairs. Dana helps Lena and Eli up. Noah stands, blanket tight. Rain eases. Lane looks at the culvert, then at the gray cap in the mud. It's over, he says. We go home now. Medics reach the creek and move fast but calm. Vitals first. Warm packs, dry blankets. Stable, one says over Lena. Stable, over Noah. Eli clings to Dana and will not let go. Lane kneels by them. We're heading out, he says. You'll ride together. Dana nods and holds Eli's face in both hands. I hear you, she says. Ruiz stands with the suspect, cuffs checked, knife bagged. Name? Lane asks. The man looks at the rain. No answer. You'll give it at the station, Lane says. He turns to the team. Bag the bells, the pad, the cord. Photograph every mark that points to water. Deputies move down the bank, slow and methodical. The storm eases to a fine fall. The culvert hums with runoff. Lane looks once more at the hatch marks on the log. 3 long, 2 short. He files the line in his head. Load up, he says. Lights off until the blacktop. Dana helps Eli into the truck. Lena and Noah follow. The door shuts soft. The boy exhales and stares at the trees. They start toward the service road. The suspect walks between Ruiz and a deputy, shoulders tight. A small bell ticks once in the brush as water shifts. Lane stops. Hold, he says. He steps off the path and finds a cord tied to a root. It leads to a shallow pocket cut in clay. Inside, a metal tin sits wrapped in plastic. He opens it with his knife. A handful of cheap coins, a hair tie, a strip of paper with 5 boxes drawn in a row. 3 are filled in, then 2 are blank. Lane stares at it. "Count right," the suspect says behind him, voice flat. Lane folds the paper, bags the tin, and seals the pocket again. He looks at Ruiz. "We're not done," he says. "Flag this. Mark the GPS. We sweep upstream at first light." He turns back to the road. Dana waits by the truck, hand on the glass. Eli lifts his palm to meet hers from inside. The rain thins to mist. Lane breathes once and signals the line to move. They roll onto the blacktop with lights off. Rain thins to a steady patter. Lane rides in the rear unit with the suspect. Ruiz leads with Dana, Eli, Lena, and Noah. Medics follow close. Radios stay short and plain. 2 minutes out, Ruiz says. "Copy," Lane answers. He watches the suspect's hands. Dirt under the nails. A scrape on the wrist where the wire bit. "Your name," Lane says. No reply. The man looks at the window and blinks slow. "Count right," he says at last. Lane keeps his voice even. "We did." The man shuts his eyes. In the lead truck, Dana holds Eli's hand. "Are we safe now?" Eli asks. "We're going home," she says. Lena sits wrapped in a blanket and stares at the floor mat. Noah watches the wipers. "He counts when it rains," Noah says. "Not tonight," Ruiz tells him. The station lot appears through mist. Lane keys the mic once. "Quiet intake. Child room ready." The gate lifts. Engines idle down. Doors open with soft clicks. No one raises a voice. Inside, warmth and dry air. A deputy guides Dana, Eli, Lena, and Noah to a small room with soft chairs and water. A care worker kneels to their eye level and speaks low. "You're safe." Medics check pulses again. "Steady," one says. Lane sets evidence on a clean table. Bags numbered. Bells. Cord. The pad. The cassette. "Play it low," he says. Morrow presses the button. Hiss. Then a small voice counts to 5. A man's voice follows. Flat. 3. Then 2. "Wait for thunder." Cloth rubs the mic. A whisper. "I wrote the words on the wall." Another whisper. "The boot has the key." The tape clicks and runs on. Footsteps. A bell rings once. Far. Lane looks through the glass at the suspect in the next room. The man sits still, eyes on nothing, finger tapping the table. 3 beats, then 2. Lane watches the rhythm end. He opens the door to the interview. "We talk now," he says. The man looks up. Rain ticks on the roof like a clock winding down. Lane sits across from the man. No cuffs to the table, hands flat. A recorder blinks once. "Name," Lane says. The man looks at the glass. "What does count right mean?" He taps 3, then 2. "Trees," he says. "Logs. Steps. Who taught you?" He blinks. "Rain." Silence holds. "How long?" "When it storms." Lane slides a photo. 5 boxes. 3 filled. 2 blank. "These?" He lifts a shoulder. "To know who came home." "Who else is there?" His finger stalls on the steel. "Footsteps," he says. "Voices. A door." Morrow cracks the inner door. "Sheriff," he says. "Pad times match trucks. Marks are a route." Lane nods and sets the photo back. "Where do the last 2 lead?" "The road," the man says. "Why blank?" "Not filled yet." "For who?" Lane asks. The man's eyes move. "You and me." Lane does not look up. "Names," he says. "Start with yours." A beat. "Cal." Lane writes it. "Cal, you're done," he says. "You will show every pocket and every bell tonight." Cal taps 3, then 2 and stops. Lane meets Ruiz by the glass. "Name is Cal," he says. "Marks form a route." He looks in on Dana. Eli sleeps on her shoulder. Lena and Noah hold cups. "1 minute," he says and steps inside. "Dana, we sweep upstream at first light," Lane tells her. "Every pocket, every bell. He will ride and point." "The note?" she asks. "Did he write it?" Lane shakes his head. "Different hands, over years." She exhales and strokes Eli's hair. Then someone kept saying it for us. Back in the room, Lane faces Cal. You sit center seat. You point. No talk unless asked. If you run, you fall. Clear? Cal looks at the table. 3, then 2, he says. Lane waits. First pocket is behind the pump house at the bend. Count trees. Lane writes it. Ruiz, prep a unit and camera. We roll in 20. Morrow lifts a finger. The cassette ends with a door and a count to 5. Lane nods. It ends here, he says to Cal. You start with the pump house. Cal lowers his eyes and stops tapping. Pre-dawn gray. Trucks idle low. Cal rides center seat, wrists cuffed in front, a deputy at each side. Lane sits opposite with a notebook. Pump house at the bend, Cal says. Count 10 trees, 2 left. They roll slow along the service track. Lane signals radios to stay dark. Rain has thinned to mist. At the bend, the pump house squats under cedars. Cal nods to a rusted drum half sunk in mud. Behind it, Ruiz slides a bar under a board and lifts. A shallow pocket opens. Inside, 2 bells wrapped in cloth, spare cord, a lighter, a strip of tape with 5 boxes drawn in pen, 3 shaded, 2 blank. Lane bags each item. Next, he says. Across the road. Cal answers. Count right. They cross to a berm cut with roots. Cal points low. Ruiz brushes aside moss. A second pocket waits. A small jar holds folded paper. Lane opens it with gloves. Inside, initials and dates in dull pencil, spaced in rows. At the bottom, the same arrow and the word count. Lane seals the jar. Where after this? Upstream, Cal says. They move along the right bank on foot. Mist lifts in thin sheets. Cal speaks in short lines. 3 cedars, 2 stones. Left. The marks hold true. A woven screen of sticks hides a third cache cut into clay. Ruiz frees it with a knife tip. Inside, a cheap phone with the battery out, a loop of wire, a small spiral page in plastic. Lane flips the page. Lines of 7. Hatch marks in 3, then 2. Beside each row, a single letter. At the end, blank space. How many letters? Lane asks. 7, Cal says. Why blank? Not filled yet. For who? Cal stares at the mud. You wrote the end yourself, he says. Lane closes the page and bags it. There are no more, Cal adds. Lane studies the bank. A fresh scratch sits on a root, still pale where the knife bit. 3 long, 2 short. Arrow down. He parts the fern bed with his hand. A small bell rests under leaves, string cut clean. New. He looks at Ruiz. Flag it. Final sweep at light. He turns to Cal. It ends here. Cal stops tapping. First light filters through mist. They roll back to the creek. Cal rides center seat, silent. Lane steps out with Ruiz and 2 deputies. Show the last mark, Lane says. Cal lifts a cuffed hand. Cedar stump. Count right. They move 10 trees, then 2. A stump sits on a clay shelf. Under its lip, 3 tall cuts and 2 short. Ruiz parts the roots with a trowel. A flat stone lifts. Inside, a sealed jar. Lane opens it with gloved hands. A small red cord bracelet. A worn library card. Edges soft. Name faded but legible. J. Oakes. Lane exhales once. He signals the tech. Photograph. Bag. Cal stares at the mud. He kept the rest downstream, he says. Lane kneels by Dana at the truck. He shows the bracelet in the bag. Dana closes her eyes and touches the plastic with 2 fingers. Jason, she says, steady. She does not cry. Thank you for bringing him to me. Lane nods. We'll recover the site with care. He looks at Cal. Every pocket, every bell. Now. Cal lowers his eyes and does not tap. By noon, medics clear the kids for rest. Eli sleeps against Dana. Lena and Noah sip water under blankets. Lane stands in evidence with Ruiz. On the table, bells, cords, maps, the jar with J. Oaks, the strip with 5 boxes, 3 shaded, 2 blank. Lane sets a pen down. He does not shade the blanks. No more boxes, he says. We use names. He writes 3 on a pad. Eli, Lena, Noah. He adds 1 more. Jason Oaks, recovered. He looks through the glass at Cal. The man sits still, wrists quiet. You will walk us to every mark, Lane says when he enters. When we finish, you won't hear rain again. Cal nods once. Lane returns to Dana. We found Jason's things, he says. Forensics will confirm. She takes his hand. I heard him anyway, she says. Outside, clouds break. The creek lowers to a steady run. Lane lifts the first note they found and reads it once more. I'm still here, the line says. He looks at the room where the kids rest. You are, he answers, low. Then he locks the evidence and opens the door.